So, hey, everybody, again, good afternoon, good morning from wherever you're tuning in from today. I am Alex Bolan, president of DigitalThinker. If you did not know, it is a pleasure to have all of you join me today to talk a little bit more about asset performance management, Hexagon APM, and what I am calling this crusade, so to speak, which is leaving maturity to cheese. So if we continue to wait to have a mature program, we'll never be able to have effective asset performance management. So a little bit about DigitalThinker. We've been a trusted advisor and partner on Hexagon's enterprise asset management for 20 years, right? Like we've been with the product before it was Hexagon, before it was Infor, really when it was DataStream. And then as we're moving into the future, right, we've adopted the asset performance management product as another tool under our umbrella. And as we continue to move forward, we will be showcasing, or excuse me, not showcasing, we'll be unveiling some additional tools to help you get the job done and to be a little bit more diversified with maintenance excellence. So stay tuned to us and we'll have some fun things come down the pipe for that. So it's enough about DigitalThinker and enough about me. Let's get into this a little bit, right? So while you've been waiting to mature, as we're told, your assets have been dictating your budget for maintenance, whether you're really listening or not. And so here's what I'd like to call the uncomfortable truth. If we keep waiting for forever to measure performance, we'll never get there. If we keep telling ourselves that we need to hit X level of standard of maturity with our asset strategy or our maintenance strategy, we'll never get there. We'll never be able to truly measure the performance of our assets and what we're doing with it. So today we're going to debunk this myth, so to speak, of asset maturity or asset management maturity, and we're going to talk a little bit about how APM can help move the needle today. So let me ask you this question. What if I told you, and this is a bold statement, right? What if I told you the biggest lie in our industry isn't about technology, but it's about timing? What if everything you've been told about needing to reach a certain maturity level before implementing an asset performance management solution is honestly, it's complete nonsense designed to keep you paying consultants instead of improving what you need to do today for you to achieve not only operational excellence, but getting the most out of your assets. So for too long, our industry has been telling us that, and that we have to reach a certain maturity. And today we're going to call it out right here and right now. And again, that lie is you need to reach a certain maturity level before implementing any sort of solution. I personally think it's garbage. I really do. I don't think we have to be mature, and we should leave maturity to cheese when it comes to measuring asset performance and how it is working and how it's affecting your asset management strategy. And moving into our next piece is the maturity myth, right? So the real question nobody really wants to ask you is, while you've been busy trying to mature, what's happening to your return on asset? So we'll break down a little bit of like what is return on asset versus what is return on investment. But more importantly, what's happening to your equipment effectiveness? What's happening to your competitive position, whether you're a manufacturer or a utility provider or whatever it is that you do in your asset intense industry, right? But the truth is, excellence is a decision that you can make today, not a destination you reach after years and years and years of preparation. Your assets are already telling you what they need. The question is whether you're listening or whether you're too busy following either a consultant's path or another maturity roadmap path to unlock that level of communication with your assets, if you will. So again, going back to this wonderful statement that was said to me by a great man by the name of George Williams of Reliability X, you do not get to dictate your maintenance budget. Your assets do. And for some of us in this meeting, right, who are more of the ground level support, we already know that. And communicating that up the chain can be difficult. And it's a mindset that we're going to have to change as we move forward in this industry, right? So again, back to the return on the assets while you're busy maturing, right? You can see here on a percentage scale, a little graph that we've got going on. You've got competitor A, B, and what's going on with this on their return on assets percentage and where you could be sitting today. So let me show you how this trap works. First, they tell you your data isn't clean enough. Then they tell you that your processes aren't mature enough and that your culture needs work. How many times have you heard potentially that you're just not ready for asset performance management? Or how many times have you told yourself, I'm just not there yet. I'm just not ready yet. And I think you could be a lot closer to this than you think. So meanwhile, months turn into years and you're scheduling maintenance based on calendar dates or time-based intervals instead of actually understanding where your assets are performing and maybe trying to get ahead of the curve on your bad actors, right? You're still reacting to failures instead of preventing them. You're still wondering why maintenance budgets keep growing and asset reliability is beginning to fall flat. So let's talk a little bit more about return on asset versus return on investment. So most people, in my opinion, get this wrong. And I think we, when we're going out to technology and we're trying to understand where it can move the needle, we do need to understand what's the return on investment on the technology component. But what we're not talking about more, and we need to shift our focus, is what is the true return on the asset? So that's thinking small, let's think big. What you should be asking about is ROA, return on asset, not the return on a single investment, but how you're efficiently getting your entire asset base and how it's generating profit for your business. So what's the return on the specific investment? That's what our ROI asks. ROA asks, how well are our assets performing across the board? ROI is about individual projects, while ROA is about operational excellence and getting it to where we need to be. So here's what ROA tells you that ROI doesn't. A company with a return on asset of over 5% is considered good. Over 20% is excellent, but here's the kicker. Most manufacturing companies don't even know what their current return on asset is, let alone their maintenance strategy or asset management strategy is impacting their return on assets. Your assets represent millions of dollars in capital investment. Every day they are underperforming, or sometimes they're performing where they need to be on a shift by shift basis, but you're not maintaining a level of consistency. Every hour of unplanned downtime, every inefficient operating condition, that is just money walking out of the door. And that hits your return on asset. So this brings us to something that I call the total cost of performance. Forget about cost savings for a minute, and let's talk about what it actually costs to achieve the performance that your business demands. Total cost of performance includes your direct maintenance costs, sure, but it also includes the opportunity costs from downtime, the energy inefficiencies when equipment isn't running optimally, the risk exposure from potential failures, the cost of not knowing what your assets are telling you. I was recently at a conference called Reliable Plant, and we had a wonderful gentleman by the name of Howard Penrose, who is this guru on electrical motors. And he specializes in energy consumption, utilities, and the energy renewal industry. And for a singular motor that is operating at 70% efficiency, one motor at 70% efficiency has already blown your carbon goals out the window, let alone driving up the cost on electricity on that motor, its performance, its quality output, everything else that's associated with it. And you can easily measure this by going to the EPA's website and utilizing a tool called Measure. It's MEASUR. I'll drop a link in the chat. And you can input your data and look at your carbon output based off of efficiency on what your motors are doing. So just think of what one single motor can do, and then however many motors that you have. Air compressors are another huge efficiency suck and performance suck as well. So I just thought that little presentation that he gave was truly incredible. But instead of asking, how can we save on maintenance, which I think is the wrong question we should be asking. I think we need to be asking ourselves, are we doing the right maintenance on the right equipment at the right time? Not only to achieve maximum asset performance, but to ensure maximum amount of uptime. Or are we just doing calendar-based PMs or time interval PMs just to say that we're doing those? Are we doing work just to do work, or are we doing work that's meaningful and impactful to the overall operation? But more importantly, are we doing it to maintain the integrity of the asset and the investment that has been made on that asset? But here's a reality that I think nobody really wants to admit to you. And again, going back to the previous statement, you just don't get to dictate your maintenance budget. Your assets do. The question is whether you're listening to what they're telling you, or if you're making decisions based on assumptions or calendar schedules. It's also important for us to try to communicate this to the right stakeholders, right? So having a clear dashboard or some clear report showing to the CFO or the CEO or COO or VP of operations, right? Where opportunities are being saved, where risk is being mitigated, and where improvements can be made. I think here, right? Like, how do we communicate that our maintenance management strategy is working, or our asset management strategy is working, right? Like we can obviously track mean time between failures or mean time between repairs and where uptime is looking at, but we're not really able to understand how much risk we're mitigating by keeping these assets and critical pieces of equipment running effectively and running at their peak performance. So, I mean, imagine being able to walk into any executive's office, right? Whether it's a printout or your phone or your laptop, and showing a dashboard exactly that has where risk is being mitigated, where improvements are being delivered, not theoretical improvements. We're talking about actual and actionable, measurable performance gains that directly impact the return on the assets and the performance of your facility. So that's what the total cost of performance thinking gets you. It's clear visibility into what's really driving your asset performance and what's it costing you when things aren't optimized. So our approach to this, you might be wondering, right? And you might be telling yourself, Alex, if this is so obvious, why isn't everyone doing it? That is an absolutely great question. And the answer is simple. It's because most vendors, in my opinion, take it with a grain of salt, but most vendors and consultants, I mean, we make a lot more money by keeping you in a preparation phase, right? Versus, I don't want to say delivering actual results, but not getting the needle in a timely manner for you. So our success and our model of success for you is your success. We're not the hero in this story. We're a guide. We're here to help recommend and show you how to use the tools in the right way and amplify the incredible people and processes you already have in place. So we believe in three fundamental principles, right? First, start where you are. No need to reach an arbitrary maturity level. This is your starting point. Your current barrier isn't a barrier, or excuse me, your current state isn't a barrier to excellence. It's your starting point. And we want to work with what you have, not what someone thinks you should have. Second, it's a people-first approach and a technology second. The best APM, the best EAM solution in the world is absolutely worthless, and it is just expensive activity if we aren't using it effectively and if we aren't designing it to work around your people, not to force your people to work around the tools in their tool bag. Third, we want to try to deliver results immediately. We're not interested in a long-term promise or a theoretical benefit. We want to implement solutions that start delivering value from the day one of go live. And we want to be able to bridge that gap between maintenance, operations, success, and where the key stakeholders need to have the right data to make the right decisions for the long-term solution for sustainability of your company. So Hexagon APM, excellent without excuses, right? This is why we partner with Hexagon and APM solution, not because it's just the newest or the flashiest tool, but we believe it delivers results without excuses, clear, actionable results. So what makes APM fantastic, right? It comes pre-configured with over 5,000 data points. That's from failure modes, failure causes, to asset twins and prescriptive actions on those assets within the asset library. It's a lot of data points to get you started and moving quickly. It's got real-time performance monitoring that directly impacts your assets. And this is all practical knowledge that you can implement immediately. There's not a true, I don't want to say lengthy custom development period. There is some cases where there is custom development, but we're not interested in trying to drag that project out as long as we need to. We don't want to spend months upon months just building models. We want to get you where you need to be as quickly as possible. And so these pre-configured data points, these pre-configured asset twins will help get you there in the right way. And a little birdie tells me there's some folks in Hexagon that are building the asset library and utilizing some very powerful tools to ramp up the creation of the digital twins, or excuse me, not digital twins, that's not the right term, the asset twins, the failure modes and failure causes that go beside them, and then what the prescriptive and our maintenance behind them is going to be. But more importantly, the system turns your assets into advisors. Instead of waiting for the failures to happen, you get early warnings, you get early detections. Instead of guessing about maintenance, and especially timing around that maintenance, you get data-driven recommendations instead of reactive maintenance. You get predictive intelligence. Predictive maintenance is such a hot buzzword right now. How do we get to predictive maintenance? How do we get there? Excuse me. I'm just going to, I'm going to keep it fairly simple on how do we get to predictive maintenance. You listen to your assets. You listen to them. You don't just do work to do work. We go out there and we get curious and we try to understand what they're doing and see how they're communicating to us. So what do we do next? What's the action plan here, right? Step one, let's start exposing the risk. There's a free tool called the Asset Risk Analyzer, and this is your first step towards operational excellence. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to show you, we being DigitalThinker, we're going to show you how to use the ARA if you haven't already used it, or Asset Risk Analyzer is also the ARA. It's a free tool. There's a link. I'm happy to share it with you, but you can also book a free consultation with us. I'll have a link at the end of this webinar where you can book it with us. And we'll show you how to do it. We'll show you how to pull the right assets out of EAM. We'll show you how to calculate the right mean time between failures and the other right data points. Put it in the right spreadsheet, and then get it uploaded into the ARA. So you can start quite literally today on exposing the risk level. So we ideally, instead of just choosing one asset, we want to pick your top 10 critical assets or your top 10 problem makers, the ones that have the biggest impact on your operations. Secondly, we're going to identify the immediate risk. We're going to show in a clear dashboard what's the risk level we're at, what is the cost going to be on that component, and then where can we mitigate the risk. And that'll help impact your bottom line, showing that you're doing true, meaningful work, or give you a use case to say, hey, I need more resources because this is where we're exposed at. This doesn't take very long. It takes probably an hour or so to get you introduced into it and to get the calculations done, and you're up and going. I think traditionally, right, some consulting agencies would love to tell you it takes a couple of weeks, and I don't want to fluff around that. I want to deliver results for you today. Next is, let's define your asset criticality if you haven't already. Not all assets are created equal, right? And not all assets deserve the same level of attention. You probably have some pieces of equipment that are not run constantly, maybe once or twice a year, and you can over-maintain those and spend money that is not meaningful towards that, while you probably have other assets that require constant care and attention. So we got to find that balance. But more importantly, right, like we got to get to that critical asset level. So we can help you create your asset criticality matrix, and that can determine which assets have the biggest impact and the biggest return on those assets. We look at assets which drive your business performance. Where's the real benefit tracking performance in that data, and how to prioritize your efforts for maximum impact. Because here's the thing, if you try to monitor everything at once, you're probably not going to optimize anything, right? You can't, my dad used to say, you can't eat a whole elephant at once, right? You got to take it one bite at a time. So let's start there. We'll also help develop a little bit of a performance tracking strategy around that criticality matrix. And this isn't about collecting data for the sake of collecting this data. This is about identifying the specific metrics that you tell whether your assets are performing to their maximum capability or not. And within Hexagon APM and the ARA, we've got the dashboard where you can show it to the people that need to see it the most, with where risk is, where performance can be improved upon, and how we're doing the right work on the right piece of equipment at the right time. And then we're just going to come into the final piece. What's step 3 on this? Initiate the conversation. This piece is about how APM can help you move to the next level. You'll notice that I said conversation and not sales pitch, because that's what we want to have, is a conversation. We want to be able to determine if APM is the right solution for you, or maybe we can go ahead and get the job done with the tools that you already have in place, whether it's Hexagon EAM, SAP, IBM, your flavor of asset management or CMMS type solution that you have. So again, going back to, we want to meet you where you're at, and we want to be able to determine if you can get the job done with what you currently have, or if you indeed do want to move to the next level and use the right tool to get the right data that goes with it. So that's pretty much the beauty of APM, right? It's flexible with what you're already working with. So it's not about replacing technology. It's not about giving people better, it's about giving people better information so they can make better decisions. It's about turning your maintenance team from reactive into proactive performance optimizers. It's about staying current and hitting that true peak of predictive maintenance by listening to your assets. So I'm going to encourage you all today to step into the land and the next piece of a mindset shift of, let's stop waiting and let's start winning today. Let's move on to what we need to do next. And that brings me to the conclusion of my conversation with you today. Let's leave maturity to cheese. Aged Gouda is the best cheese out there. Aged Parmesan is the best cheese out there. An aged asset performance strategy is not going to get you where you think you need to get that quickly. So let's start improving your return on your assets today. Let's get you hooked up on the Asset Risk Analyzer for free. The QR code in the upper right-hand corner of my screen will take you directly to a meeting link where you can book time with me, and we can show you how to use the ARA. I will drop the ARA link in the chat here when we're doing the Q&A fielding component of this, but we want to get you moving the needle today. So if any of this resonated with you, I'd love to hear it, right? I'd love to hear some questions. Be happy to answer them with you and talk a little bit about next steps. So drop some questions in the chat if you'd like. I can unmute you, I think, and you can ask your question in front of the group. If not, I can disable the mic. That's good. So if you have a question, either raise your hand or drop in the chat where your question is. I'll unmute you. And just while I'm waiting for some of these questions to trickle in, I'm going to go ahead and drop the Asset Risk Analyzer link in the chat. And we can get you going today. Don't hesitate to book a meeting with me again, right up here in this corner. You can scan that and go ahead and book a meeting with me, and we can just have a conversation, get you set up in the ARA, get you where you need to go. Maybe we'll determine that the ARA isn't the right step, and we just need to go ahead and start looking into APM a little bit deeper. Whatever questions you have on it, right? I'm happy to help you, and I'm happy to get you to the next level. I'll stick around for a few more minutes. I know everybody's got a busy day to jet, so if you got to go, this pretty much concludes what I wanted to discuss with you guys today. And hopefully this stuck with you a little bit. If not, I hope you guys have a great rest of your Tuesday, great week, and we'll see you on the next one.